Or you could start trying to develop your rook over and down. Or develop your bishop. Because right now your bishop's sort of dead in the water back there. God, what a weird board.
Yeah.
I think I am going to push. Because I want that. Oh, I can't go that far. No! All of my plans foiled.
What were you going to do?
I was trying to move. I thought, I don't know why I thought this. I thought my B6 pawn was in his home rank, so I was trying to go
Excuse me.
too forward to threaten your knight.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it did not work that way. But I'm going to push him anyway. Because he's protected by my queen.
Your bishop is protected by your queen?
No, my pawn that I just moved.
Oh. Now, why did you move the pawn?
Because I want to get him forward one more space to threaten your knight. So now I can force you to either move
make
your
a trade, right?
B2 pawn forward to do a pawn trade, or if I can get one more space forward, I can initiate either a knight trade or get your knight to get out of there, or just swap pawns again to open up the A file.
Right. So that's the move I make, and then you're going to take my pawn with your C5 pawn.
Maybe.
Or
I suppose there's not really a reason not to.
is there a better move? Or is that just like the easy move? The duh move.
Yeah. I don't know that there's a reason not to. I don't think there's a reason not to.
Okay.
And then the obvious move for you is to take that pawn with your pawn.
But, and you can't, right, because then you can't, okay.
But then I'm going to take him with my knight.
Farts. Then I'm
which
going to
puts
take.
my knight in a nice position.
Because
now your entire right side of or left side of the board is unguarded, not unguarded, but less guarded.
And there's no way I can. Well, can I? I can't take you with my queen.
No.
Rooks are weird.
In reality, when I showed you how to castle, you probably wouldn't have wanted to do that just because of the defense, because your rook would now be still in the A1 position.
Yeah.
But we're learning.
Right. And so I can't really take this your now B4 knight with my C3 knight.
Correct.
Because the way the knight moves.
You could take my B5 pawn with that knight, but that pawn's currently being guarded by my queen.
Yeah, and so your queen would just take my knight, right?
Yep, correct. And then you would be down a piece.
Is there anything like, so you've moved your knight here for a reason, right?
Well, it was to take that pawn.
Oh.
There wasn't really another reason. But it does set me up in a pretty nice position to start moving forward. Because, like, an answer to this would be to move your queen to B2, but then I'm just going to move my pawn, my A7 pawn, to A5, which protects my knight.
I agree, Isabel.
And then I would just march my B5 pawn up one, which would force you to move your knight.
My dog just grumbled.
Yep.
I was agreeing with her grumbling.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
She makes the best grumbles.
Are we done chewing?
Maybe.
What are you doing, Zero? What are you doing?
Okay. You're up.
I just don't know what zero's doing.
She doesn't know either.
Uh,
So why did you decide to move your pawn?
because now he's reinforcing that knight.
How can I reinforce my knight?
Um, mm,
Can't, right?
not really. Well, but your knight's also not under threat. Like there's nothing that's threatening to take your knight. Right?
Right.
Um, and this actually does less than I wanted it to.
Excuse me.
I don't think I thought that one through very well. Hmm.
So what is your thought process right now? Like what are
Well,
you
like I'm trying to get aggressive with my knight, but I can't put him anywhere without him just being instantly taken by something. So like my knight could move, like I could take the d3 pawn, but then you would just take him with any number of pieces. I could move him to a2, but then that whole rank is guarded by your queen. I could start a pawn march, but I move him once and then your knight can take him. Like I move my a5 pawn and that leaves him vulnerable to your knight. Oh, but I'm protected by my other pawn. Hell yeah, there you go.
You're ridiculous. I love you. Like you're talking out and you're like, yeah, that's the right move. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. That also should date me a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, so now that you've moved this pawn, did you move the pawn to guard the knight?
So my objective with this pawn is to get him all the way to the end.
Are you
Because
trying to put can a pawn check?
pawns can do anything that every other piece can do within their movement restrictions.
And what are you trying to where so you're trying to get your pawn down to A1?
So the one thing that pawns can do is if a pawn makes it to the opposing side, the opposing rank,
Right.
they can become any other piece.
Oh, right. I did know that.
So generally that other piece is a queen because why would you make anything else?
So you'd have two queens on the board?
I would have two queens on the board.
Well, fork that.
So generally you don't want to let pawns make it to the end. And it's also generally not one of those things that happens until very end game.
So then how can I stop that from happening?
I mean, the easiest way would just be to move your king over one, because then that pawn's just never going to make it.
Right, because
Like
then I
even
could.
if that pawn makes it to a1,
Wait a
like
minute. Does
your
that
king would just
then
take it.
1, 2? Oh, okay. So that your knight couldn't get me then because there's no move your
No,
knight could make that would make that happen.
correct. Because that means that there's no longer a way for my pawn to get up there. Because like my pawn could make it to a2 safely, because it would technically be under threat with your queen, but that space is protected by my knight. So my pawn could make it to a1, but now there's no reason to make it to a1.
Right. Because my king is there and my king would just take you. Right?
Oh, but with you may have to move your king all the way over to block.
Get him,
Neighbors.
0. Okay. What is it? You tell him. Some serious business here, folks.
Oh, the neighbors just showed up.
I imagine
So
that's
I'm
our
going to
new
try this anyway.
neighbors.
I don't know how this is going to work out. Oh, he actually listened to me. Damn it.
I am not estúpido. Oh. All right. Oh my goodness, it's just so serious.
Okay, 0. 0. You're fine. Stop.
You're up, Pratt.
There's not even anything out there. I don't even know what she's
Well,
barking at.
she doesn't know what she's barking at.
What are you barking at?
Did they bring their dogs today, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, she's looking at something, but like, there's nothing out there. What are you looking at?
Maybe there's a squirrel or a cat or something. Is there a cat? She doesn't like cats. Okay, enough. Thank you. Good girl, Isabel. Isabel's just sitting there.
She could have done that, but my pawn was threatening those squares.
So what are you gonna do?
I don't know yet.
Because you
I'm
can't
gonna
move
have
your
to-
pawn anymore. Because I can take your. But then
I'm gonna have to trade something at some point. We're in this weird little
over
deadlock.
one. Here's your turn.
I know.
Riveting stuff here. Hey, Mr. Aaron. How's it going?
Setting this rook up for success, or this pawn up for success.
What why are you forcing me to take your pawn with my king? Is that what you want me to do?
You can't.
I can't.
Nope.
Why?
Because it's being guarded by my knight.
And then you would just take my yeah. So
Well, you can't. Like, you cannot put yourself in check.
oh, right. You the game says no.
Yeah. So
Hey,
this is actually a very interesting position for you to be in.
move my rook next to the king and take his knight. Oh, so like this? That move? Now why did you do that?
To protect my knight.
So I can't
Oh, shit, that was a bad move.
Hey, this is a family-friendly stream. Use a different word, please.
Oh, that was a bad idea. That was
Farts.
a bad idea for me.
Farts.
I should have retreated. Crap.
So
So I totally just set my rook up to be taken by your knight.
yeah, you did. Right?
Yeah, like this is a whole lot of blunder going on,
So I'm gonna do that.
and then you would take my knight.
Oh, that's not fair. You did that on purpose. You didn't even say that that was a possibility. I didn't see it.
Did, but now my knight is open to your rook, which is basically a free trade because I can't do anything about it. Like, that's super strong. That puts you up 5 points.
Thanks, Aaron. That was a good call.
Yeah, no, that was a great move.
No, you're fine. We appreciate backseat gaming. I am learning how to play chess, so that is today.
I don't have an acceptable answer to that. Like, that's bad. That's bad news bears for me.
So what's your next move now?
I don't know.
Oh, well,
Uh,
because
that's
you
a
can't
terrible
move
idea.
your A2 pawn anymore, right?
Nope.
So why did you move your
Well, and you could take him with your queen or your king unabated. Like, that
Oh,
was
right, because
literally,
there's no other
yeah, like that
piece.
was catastrophic for me.
Okay, so why did you move your rook over?
To reinforce my
Bishop?
bishop.
Okay. So you could. Oh no, you can't because pawns can only take diagonally.
Yep.
So you can't take your pawns can't take any of my pawns right now.
Your next 2 moves should be to take those 2 pawns on the A rank or the A file.
With my king?
You could do it with your king. You could do it with your rook. Oh, that's what I should have done. Well, shoot.
What should have you done?
I should have reinforced my A file, not my rook. Because now I basically gave up both of those pawns. Yep. Oh, nope, no, I didn't. Suck it.
What? I disagree. I should have seen that right there.
I didn't see it till you did it.
Queen to A2. Queen to A2. What would that do?
He wants you to take. He wanted you to take
Oh,
the
the previous
A2 pawn
move
with your queen. Yeah.
with my queen. That would have been a better move than taking it with my rook.
Yes.
Farts.
So now I could be a jerk and initiate a queen trade in a minute. We'll see if I do that.
So is there? I cannot. If I move my queen here, can you still get to her if I'm surrounded by pieces?
Where is here?
I'm sorry. If I move my queen to e3, you will
You
lose
could.
both. You will
It
lose
doesn't.
both. Aaron says we will lose both queens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you would lose both queens if you moved your queen to A2, which would be a queen trade.
Well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it now because
Well,
we
no, I
were.
was just saying I was going to move my queen to e3. Would you still be able to do something?
I'll
Could you
always be
take
able
it
to
with
do
my
something,
pawn?
but I couldn't take your queen anymore.
Could you take my queen with your g5 pawn?
If you moved it to F4, but not if you moved it to E3.
Queen to a2. He takes yours. You take his with king. That would initiate endgame. Is he right? Well, I'm
Yeah.
assuming he's right. He knows how to play chess. I don't.
Yep. He is absolutely correct.
Okay, so we've initiated endgame,
But you only have one move.
which is to take your queen, right?
Correct.
So now what?
Now we play this fun little dance of trying to take each other's rooks and bishops.
Bishops.
um,
So how
and
is that?
my
How is that move considered endgame? Like
my
that? Is that
pawns.
initiating endgame, or are we
So
talking about?
it's just sort of reference because we're down to less than. I mean, there are only two named pieces on the board anymore. Like we each have one rook and one bishop, and that's it. Like that's pretty. You're getting down to the last handful of moves in the game. At this point, we'll either stalemate each other or one of us will win.
So basically a Beckett situation here.
Yeah. Yeah, he wants you to free up your rook because your rook is sort of stuck.
Free up g2. Oh, once queens are gone, things move fast. Well, yeah, because she can do anything. So is there a better place to move my rook? I have four options. I'm
I
assuming
mean,
I don't want to go
I would
back.
bet he wants you to take it back and over to protect the king. So he probably wants you to move it to G1 and then shuffle him over
Right,
next turn.
right, okay. So how far over do I move him? To B1?
The most sensical move would be to the B file because then that locks my rook in place. Because then if I move it locks my bishop in place. Because if I move my bishop, you can just take my rook as a free action, which would be very bad for me.
Rooks are your favorite?
They're dangerous because they're sneaky.
Now, what is your objective with your king right now?
I'm trying to reinforce my rook with my king. Because rooks, while cool, are still very limited. And so it's like if I can move my king over somewhere adjacent to my rook, you can't take it with your rook without losing both pieces.
So
So
that's why.
I'm gonna
So
try to
now,
develop my bishop out of there.
right. So now my rook is guarding my bishop here.
So your rook is pinning my bishop in place because if I try to move my bishop, you get a free rook.
Oh, right on. So I should leave my rook where it is. Aaron says
with
I have a
my-
much stronger position.
Oh, much stronger.
Initiate a pawn trade on the right now that the king is gone.
Yeah, no, you're in a super strong position to start hiking your pawns forward, which is mostly why I'm trying to leave my rook in the 8 rank to try to mop up any errant pawns. But it's gonna be touch and go for me.
So now what I'm doing, just to share like what I'm thinking, is I'm thinking all the moves he can make with his pawns because I know I'm going to lose pawns at this point, which is part of the game, right?
Yeah, but like even if you did a 1-to-1 trade for every pawn, you have 2 more pawns than I do.
Right.
So like trading is exactly what you want to do because you're up by 2.
So if any of these pawns here in my 3 that rank, 3 rank, that
Yeah.
the cross is rank,
Yep.
and file is on top.
Yeah,
right?
ranks are numbers, files are letters.
Okay, so all my pawns in my 3 rank, like if any one of those I move, you can take that pawn, correct?
What you're trying to do is you're trying to initiate a way to set up your pawns to take, like you don't want to give up a pawn without being able to take a pawn.
Right. Okay.
Which is a little difficult.
No, it is, right? Because any of these 3 file pawns that I move, these 3 rank pawns that I would move, you can take, and I can't take them with another pawn.
Yeah.
And I can't move any of my 4 rank pawns because they can only move forward.
But what you could do is you could move your d3 pawn forward because I have to take, but then that completely opens up your e file and your d file.
What does Aaron say over here? So he will go ahead and get a hut on pawns, but you will be in a position with your rook to kill anything that gets to the end.
Yeah. Well, plus not only that, but you have your bishop basically protecting the entire, both of those lanes.
Okay, so you took that, but there's no, and so that was my issue, is that there's no pawn that I can move to take that pawn of yours.
You don't need to, because where your bishop is, that pawn can't go anywhere.
Your pawn can't go anywhere now.
Yeah, my d4 pawn is stuck there until you move your bishop.
Aaron says now charge with your e4 pawn.
Yeah. Because I can't move my king up there. I could take with my rook, but then I'd lose, or I could take with my bishop, but then I would lose my rook.
Right.
So this is a funky position to be in. And then I can't do anything next turn because he's going to move. You're going to want to move him again, and
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have an answer to that.
Because if you move your pawn forward, I can take it with my bishop, right?
Yep. So he's sort of dead in the water for now. The best I might be able to hope for here is a bishop trade. I don't know, though. I hate this.
Okay, so now if I move this pawn here, you're going to take him with your king, right?
Yeah. Well, so you don't want to do that. You want to move forward with your d5 pawn. Because as long as these 2 pawns are together, my king is going to have a heck of a time getting up there. Oh, that's not true, because then I could just shuffle backwards and start going sideways. I don't know. I don't know quite what you do here. You could move your bishop forward to C. Nope.
Mm-mm.
You'd move your bishop forward to B5 because that would give you space to move him forward. I don't know.
Have E and D5 move ahead, covering each other. You'll lose 1. He kills queens with rook, but opens up king to attack. Have E and D5.
So he wants you to move your So he wants to move your D5 pawn forward and then just march it forward to continue on.
Oh, this pawn? Like that?
Your D5 to D6. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll lose 1. Oh, and then make 1 a queen. He kills the queen, but rook. With rook, but opens. Oh, okay. I see what he's saying.
But I do think
So you move
I
your
can
rook
do
instead.
this. I do think this is a safe move. I think this gets me out of this. Because I just put your king in check with my rook.
Oh,
And so your king can only go one direction, which then protects my bishop.
because my rook can't move right now, right?
Yeah, because right now you have to remove your king from check, which means either blocking your king, blocking whatever's put your king in check, taking whatever piece is putting your king in check, or moving your king.
So if I take your rook, what does that mean? I can't.
I mean, that you would take it out
Oh,
of check, but you don't have a piece in position to take my rook.
right.
So your only option.
Is to move my king.
Well, it's not your only option, but unless you want to give up your bishop, the only real option you have is to move your king. So you could block my rook with your bishop.
But then you would take my bishop with.
But then I would take your bishop.
With
with
your
my
bishop.
bishop.
Right.
Yeah.
So the better move would be to move my king.
It's the safest option. It doesn't lose you a piece right now. But I think it secures my back line.
Now, why did you move your bishop there?
To try to keep your pawns from marching forward.
Well, because it doesn't, like, if I move this pawn, you can take it with your king, right?
No, I can't. If you move either of these pawns forward, I cannot take them with your king because they're being protected by the other pawn.
Right on.
But the position that I've set up now, if you move your d6 pawn forward, I'm just not going to move my king. Because I don't need to. But if you move your e6 pawn forward, I'll just shuffle my king over to e8. And so ultimately, all I'm doing is waiting for your pawns to move forward one more, and I'll take him with my bishop.
Both of them or one of them? Bishop e2 to d3?
Both of them eventually. He wants you to start developing your bishop to
Right.
get him down there to help protect your pawns,
To d3.
which is the absolute right move.
Oh, here. Right?
Yep.
Because you can't touch me with your pawn.
Correct. And I'm going to try to move to defend.
Or,
So that just put your king into check.
why am I in check again? I don't like this. Because the bishop can only move on the diagonal. Oh, so I just move my king back or forward and he's safe?
Correct.
I heard that.
Because you can't move to the left because my pawn is protecting that position. You can't move diagonally to your left because then my bishop's just in the way.
What? So should I move B back? He says to move back. So I should move my king to B2?
Probably. Because what he's trying to prevent is me. He's trying to prevent me from forking you.
Fork you. Bum, bum, bum. So now what are you thinking?
I'm wondering if I can force your king into a better position.
So what does that do with moving your rook there?
So it puts your king in check again.
Would you stop it? You're so mean.
Because this forces you to move your king
Yep, then to
to
C1.
A2 or C1 or A2. Hmm.
He takes your rook with his, you take his rook with king.
No, I don't want a rook trade. That's dangerous right now because I'm down in pawns. That is not to my advantage to trade rooks right now.
So then what are you going to do? Are you going to muck around with your pawns or?
I'm going to keep pushing your king out of the way.
Farts. So it's just in check again.
Yeah. And it limits. You can go back to
Yeah.
B2.
He's tricksy, isn't he?
Well, because rook, especially in in-game, when I was watching a master class with, it was like a 2300 or 2400 player, and the one thing he talked about was that you don't actually want to trade if you can help it, especially in the late game, especially if you're down pieces, because it doesn't help you. I was hoping to get rid of
Oh, you were trying
that
reverse
bishop.
psychology. It's tricksy.
We have to be careful because if you play the same move 3 turns in a row, you force a forfeit or a tie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just putting some extra cream on my cuticles here.
I'm going to get aggressive. This is dangerous.
How is that dangerous?
It's dangerous for me because I'm leaving my king all alone.
All right. Have a
Take it
good
easy,
day,
Aaron.
Aaron. Thanks for tuning in.
So this is dangerous for me because I'm leaving my king unattended, but because I forced you to move your king in front of your rook, that gives me at least 1 turn worth of moves to do some pawn assaulting.
I'll assault your pawns.
Because you at least have 1 pawn that you can't reinforce right now. And so you have 2 options. You can move your D6 pawn.
Thanks for liking, Aaron. Thanks for watching.
You can move your D6 pawn forward so that he won't be taken, but then I'm just going to take your E6 pawn. You could reinforce your E6 pawn with your bishop, but then I'm just going to take your D6 pawn. Either way, I'm getting out with a pawn. And you won't be able to protect it. But I don't quite know where to go from there. Because, like, if I was in your shoes...
I'm not moving this triangle because you're just going to march forward and make a queen with one of your pawns.
Yeah, well, and that's why those little pawn triangles are so powerful. Although, I mean, at some point I'm going to move my h6 pawn forward, and you'll have to answer that with something. And I have 2 extra pawns on the g-file.
Which is why I'm not moving them.
Yeah.
Parts.
Meaning that I'll be able to get by regardless at some point.
Oh, you think?
Depending on what happens. I mean, that's sort of where we're at, right?
Well, I don't want to move this bishop because then you're just going to march forward with your pawn.
You don't have to worry about marching because you still have your rook in the back line. So anything that makes it to the back line instantly dies to your rook.
Oh, right on. Because he just kind of moves back and forth if he wants to, right?
Yeah.
Parts.
I almost think the power move here is to go bishop to f5. Because it reinforces that pawn, and at least it gives that pawn some backup, so I can't do anything about it.
I mean,
But then
this?
it sort of lets my rook run rampant around your back line. I don't know. I don't actually know what a good response is here.
Why did you do that?
Because I had to, because my king was in check.
Oh, right, because he was on the green.
Yeah. I only had 2 moves. Well, I had 3 moves. I could have moved him to
Oh, right,
d7,
I
which
can't.
doesn't do
I can
anything.
only move him forward. He can only take on diagonal. So you're just going to take my...
So my next move is for my rook to take your back pawn, and
Right,
then my move after that is for my king to take your e7 pawn.
right. Okay, go ahead.
It's your turn.
Oh,
I moved my king. That was my move. King to e8. So like you could still try to move your bishop down there, but I don't know. You could move your bishop to force my rook to move, but my rook's going to move next turn anyway. You could leave him there just to sort of gum up the works. But once my rook gets free, like you're going to have to start doing some serious
backpedaling.
backpedaling. You could move your rook to e7, which would stop my king from taking your, or move your rook to e1, which would stop my king from taking your e7 pawn. It's not a permanent fix, but it stops something.
This?
What is this?
You said moving my rook to e1?
Yeah, so if you move your rook to e1, that stops my king from taking the
Because then
e7
your king would be in
pawn.
check.
Correct, and you cannot do that. You can't purposely put.
So you just took my pawn.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
Makes us
matter.
even.
Oh, okay, I see. All right, right.
So now we are even on pieces. I don't know where to go from here. Like I don't know what a good move for you is. Like I know what I'm doing, but I don't know what
Okay,
you
so
should be doing.
if I move,
Oh, I know what you should do. Well, I don't know what you should do. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so if I move my f3 pawn to f4, and you take it with your g5 pawn, right?
Yep. Yep.
Can I take that pawn with my bishop, but then that opens up that rook to move, right?
You could not because we would be on a dark square. And right now your bishop is light squares only.
Right. Well, because that's what.
Does that make sense?
No.
So your f3 pawn can move to f4, but f4 is a dark square. So your bishop can't get there ever. Because your bishop's a light square bishop.
No. No, that's not what I'm talking about. No.
What are you
So
talking
I'm
about? I'm sorry.
talking about moving my f3 pawn to f4, and you would take it with your g5, right?
Correct, right?
So that would put that pawn in g5,
Nope, that would put that pawn in f4.
f4, whatever. That's what I meant. f4. I had my little cursor on f4. That would
You
move.
can, if you right click, you can mark squares. And then if you click
Oh, well, I guess I'm moving there. Thanks.
I said left click, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
I meant right click. If you right click squares, you can red them out. And if you click and drag right click, you can make arrows.
Okay. Well, it's your turn now.
What was your? So what were you gonna do here?
Well, I was just,
What was your question? I'm sorry.
my
Before I screwed
question.
you up.
My question was anticipating your move. I knew you were going to make this move where you're going to take my pawn that I just moved. So you're going to take your G5 pawn and move it to F4 and take that pawn, right?
Right. Right.
And so right now my rook is kind of guarding my back line, correct?
Correct.
And my bishop is okay because you can't take forward or to the side with pawns, right?
Correct.
And I don't want to move my bishop because then that allows, but it doesn't matter because my rook is here and my rook can take your pawn.
Correct. So right now, because there are two rooks in play, really the only thing we can hope for is to do a little rook dance to move kings around to more favorable positions.
Well, because I can't move any of my pawns, right? Well, I can move this pawn, my h1 pawn, because you can't take that, right?
Your h3 pawn?
Yeah, sorry, h3 pawn.
Correct. I mean, you can move him forward twice, but that it doesn't do a whole lot. You could reinforce your pawns with your bishop by moving it onto the e2, but that defeats the purpose of having your rook there.
Right.
Because like I'm just gonna start trying to shuffle your king somewhere where I want him to be.
So now my king is in check, correct?
Correct. So your next two moves are going to have to be real careful because my thought here is I'm going to move my next move is going to be moving my rook to b3 because he's protected by my bishop and trying to try to take your d3 bishop.
But now I have to move my king because he's in check.
You have to move your king. You can move him, yep, into one of those diagonals.
Yeah. And so you're trying to force me to move my bishop, right?
Correct. And there are several places you could move it.
Where my eye itches. And so your rook can move any rank and file, right?
Right.
So it can move 2 spaces to the right and then down one, and then down 2. So could your, right now, the way it's set up, could your rook take my king?
No.
No, because it's not in check.
Correct.
So weird. But you're trying to take my bishop, right?
Right.
And so I should be moving my bishop so you can't take it.
Yes. That's my hope is that you will move your bishop. I don't quite know to what end, but forcing people to move pieces is generally a good idea.
And so
The
would it
worst
make,
place you could put him is like b5,
right?
because
Because
then
then
I
you
would just
can
take it
just
with
take
my
it.
with my bishop
Oh, more
or my
barking.
rook, I guess.
So would it make more sense to move my bishop forward or move my bishop back to the back line?
I mean, God, I guess in reality, your best move is probably to g6 to put my king in check, because that forces me to, that basically gives you a free move to do something else.
How does g6 put it in check though? I don't.
So bishops can move diagonals,
Okay.
and e8 is a diagonal of g6.
Oh, right on. Thanks. So now your king is in check, so which forces your king to move, correct?
And my king literally only has one move
Right.
because I can't go to F and D because of the pawn, and I can't go to F7 because of the bishop. So like that's literally the only move I can make.
And so this is a move I can make like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Which then turns that into a queen, which boy screws me over. I didn't see that at all. Because now I don't have an answer for that queen. Now you got a queen hanging out on the board. Oh boy, that's about the end of this game, huh? Oh, well, that sucks.
That was great.
Yeah. So regardless of my next move, your next move needs to be queen to A4. This is the point where I would resign. But let's play it out. Yeah, you want to go queen to A4 because now you just need to remove my big pieces. So the best move for your king in this position is to move forward a diagonal. Because rooks can't do anything on diagonals, and so being on their diagonal is super powerful.
So like my king to B2?
Yeah, like B2, either B2 or D2. Yep.
So now what does that do?
This is like the nothing. At this point, nothing I do matters because I'm not going to win.
Oh, but I can do this, right? No.
I don't know what
Oh,
this
because
is.
that, never mind. I was moving the wrong direction. So never mind. I'll shut up.
So like at this point, like you could take the D4 pawn, which puts me in check. Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
That?
Yeah. Because then my king only has 2 moves, and then I'd move your rook down to E6, which puts my king into check again. So now you're just so the rook and the queen is a great combination because you can just shuffle my king into a corner, and that would be checkmate. Because like my king now only has 3 moves. I can only go to B5, B7, or C7.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I'm literally just walking myself to my death. So now you want to move your rook up to E5. Because that'll put me in check again.
What? It won't
Rook
let
to
me.
E5. Oh, I mean, you shouldn't anyway, because I would. No, yeah, rook to E5. What do you mean we'll let you?
It won't let me. Oh, wait, never mind. Shut up, Becky. Shut up. So now you're in check again. B6. Oh, I see where. Yeah, I should have moved to B6. Did Isabel take your bone, sweet dog? Yeah, did she take it from you? Or super sad about it? B6 was check.
Oh, I missed it.
You're a butt. You didn't miss it.
I didn't. So I mean, this point, you're literally just want to chase my king into the corner. So it's like just use your queen to herd me into the corner.
So that would be like this, right?
Yeah.
Hi, dog. Why are you on my shoulder? It's painful. And now you're stepping on. Hi, how are you doing? Hi, what's up? What's up? Get down.
And what you don't want to do is you don't, because like the biggest mistake you could make right now is to put either one of those pieces next to my king without protection.
Right, because then it's just one move and he could take it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to move my rook. Right?
I mean, you could move your rook to E8. It's protected by or you could move, not your rook, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, either one you could move there, but you could move your bishop to E6, which would put me into check. That might be mate, actually. That was not E.
Oh,
8.
well, fart.
Here, I'll give you another chance.
Oh,
Rook to E8.
I thought you said bishop to E8.
Bishop to E8. Sorry. That wasn't 8. Where can I go? Cripe.
Because can't you move back and take my bishop?
No, I can't take your bishop because your rook is guarding it. I don't know, move your rook to E7, I guess. Oh no, I could take it.
Yeah. Wouldn't I want to move my queen over to D4? Would that put your king in check?
Yep. Force me over. Now you could move the queen to D7.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be able to take her?
Oh, because it's being guarded by the bishop.
So confused. What are you doing?
Trying to run out the clock.
Apparently. Right? I can do that and you'd be in check again.
You could. I don't know what that is.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can't. Right. Moving my rook to E6.
Yeah. I mean, but that forces me upwards, and you don't want to push me upwards. You want to push me downward.
I want to push you closer to my king.
No, you want me to push. You want to push me into A8.
Oh, how do I do that?
Well, remember you have to remember diagonals exist. And so remember that your queen right now is guarding, her diagonal,
Mm-hmm.
which means that B5 is a guarded space.
Okay.
So you could move your rook to B5.
And you can't
Because
take it?
then I can't move.
Oh,
No,
right.
because it's guarded.
Right, because she can just, if you moved and took my rook, she would just take you the next turn.
Yeah. And that's the only move I can do. So now you want to move your queen to like C6, which would force me down to A7. So just so you know, like I should have resigned this game several moves ago.
Oh, right on.
Like back in I don't know, whenever you queened.
So if I have a question.
Okay.
So if I move my king from B2 to A2, does that put your king in check?
Kings cannot put each other in check.
Well, that's dumb. Why not?
But kings can protect things from like you can mate with a king, protecting another piece. So like a king and a rook can make a perfectly acceptable checkmate. Because like if you push a king into a corner and then you have a rook that's putting it in check and a king that's protecting the rook, that's a valid checkmate.
So if I move my rook from B5 to B6, it's protected by my queen.
Yes, although there would be no point in doing that because it doesn't do anything.
Well, what does something?
You want to move your queen to B6 because that puts my king into check and it only has one move left. Because I can only go into the death corner. And then you just queen to B8. And that's checkmate.
Oh, that's checkmate?
That's checkmate.
Because the only move.
Because I have no moves left. I cannot move the king to a position where he is not in check. I can't take your queen because then I'm in check from the rook.
Right.
I can't move up one because your queen's guarding those two spaces. I can't remove any of the pieces to put me in check.
So yeah, so then that's what checkmate means. There are no moves left for the off color.
Yeah, it means that king in the following turn will be taken.
Right.
And a taken king is the end of the game.
Well, I think that's good. I think that was a good first learning experience. We're not going to rematch because
We could look at the report,
Oh, so go to the game report?
which is awful. Peter's just mad.
Chess analysis. View your game report. Okay.
Oh, it won't actually do.
What is it doing? I don't
Oh, how did you get to that screen?
know. I clicked the report thing and then
Oh,
that's
there
what,
we go. Report.
so do you want to do key moments?
Four blunders. That's bad.
Where does it? Oh, blunders. Oh, 4.
We each had
5
missed
missed
wins,
wins, right? No brilliant moves. Shocking. I mean, for me anyway, shocking. A wild game, and you came out on top.
but
21.
so the cool thing about the analysis is when you start getting good, like this is how you learn like what the computer wants you to do. Like even right off the bat, the computer hates pawns only moving one space. Although apparently it's a book move, the Saragossa opening,
Mm,
but it didn't like it.
interesting.
It also hated, but it did not like your second pawn move.
How are you reading that information?
So if you go to at the top of the right, like you're looking at the report,
Yeah.
the middle tab is analysis,
Oh.
and then you
Well.
can like next move, and like if you can hit play and pause, and it'll play through the game.
Oh.
But then you can actually look at the moves, and it tells you what each move is and what each best move would have been in response to the previous move.
Oh.
So like me, turn 4, me moving that pawn instead of moving my knight is considered an inaccuracy, and it swayed the game in your favor by 1.3 pieces.
Oh. Interesting.
But then you moving your pawn, your D2 pawn forward 1 was also an inaccuracy, and it made up for all my lost time.
Oh, computers. Where would we be?
But like if we ever play a game and there's ever a question of like what should I have done there, like this will absolutely tell you what you should have done. Oh, let's get to this awful move. Look at that. A terrible move. It didn't want me to. So the computer doesn't like trading either. So like halfway through the game when you moved your queen to take that pawn, that's not what the computer wanted you to do. Or it did. That is what the computer wanted you to do. It wanted me to not take your queen. It wanted me to just move over one. Like it called that move a blunder for me.
Oh, that seems weird though.
Yeah. And so like I don't no go back. That's also a blunder. And so like what it's not good at doing is it doesn't tell you what the next move is. Like what would have been the next move. Oh, weird. So like the analysis is way beyond my skill level to really understand and really to parse, but it's certainly interesting to look at.
Oh no, it does though, because it's saying, isn't it like when it does that arrow, that's telling you where you should have moved your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Is a missed win. What?
I don't know.
It's
Anyway.
saying halfway through the game that was a missed win? How do you figure?
I don't know. Can you then click back on these things and replay that? Yeah. Oh yeah, you can. Okay then. Cool. Well, the blunder.
Weird.
Blunder. There's my castle move.
The game really
Mistake.
likes castles, like castling.
This inaccuracy. Inaccuracy. Huh.
So I think next time, if you want to do this next time,
Yeah.
what I think we'll do is I think I'll have you play a computer opponent and I will observe.
Oh, okay.
And we'll just pick like the easy guy and we'll just sort of walk through it.
Okay. All right. Well, that is or wraps up our exciting and thrilling venture into teaching Pepper how to play chess.
I think you did good. I think that
Yeah.
was great.
Did
I
a,
somehow managed to lose to myself. That was great.
well, is that meta? Is that very meta? Losing to yourself. Anyway, I do hope everyone is being safe given the state of our nation right now. Be kind. What else? Wear your mask over your nose and your mouth, please, and thank you. Wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, stay home. These are 4 things that you can still absolutely do and should be doing to help ease the strain of the pandemic on hospitals and other first responding entities.
She absolutely cinched it. And it was mostly because of my just horrendous blunder
I did.
by
I did
losing,
win.
by not only losing
What was the last couple?
so the big blunder, my big blunder was moving my rook forward and leaving my king open,
When did you
and
do
you being
that?
able to move
Where's your rook
that
move?
pawn. It was turn 45.
Turn 40. That was 58. Turn 45. That one?
Yeah, rook to b3 screwed me over
Yeah.
because it freed up you to move your bishop to
Mm-hmm.
g6, which gave you the queen, and that was game over for me.
Classic Rambo rook move.
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, and it's a pretty common problem to be too aggressive with your rooks because they're very powerful pieces, but it's very easy to. They're also very restricted, and from that point, it was just downhill for me. Oh, it's a bad mistake. Game-ending blunder for me.
It's all good. It is a learning process that we are embarking on.
Mate in 9. Oh, that means you missed a mate somewhere.
Probably. Anyway, we do hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend. I hope you have fun social distancing things planned. I know we're probably gonna go walk the dogs. It's nice out for once and not
It
raining.
is freezing out.
Yeah, but it's not raining.
It's freezing out.
You are a Viking. Oh my goodness.
I'm a Viking that likes to be comfortable.
You are from the north.
I am the North.
Yeah. Anyway, hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Tune in. What are you streaming tomorrow there, Scooter?
More satisfactory, I believe.
So tune in tomorrow at noon. Debo will be streaming some Satisfactory with his friend Skater Gumby. Seems to be a popular stream, so hop on and check that out, and then have a great rest of your week there in the middle of January. What the H? It's the middle of January already? How did that happen? This year, 2020, has just been like the longest and shortest year ever. And here we are already in 2021. And you're like, what happened to January? It's going to be February soon. Just you wait. And on that note, yeah, tune in. Don't forget to follow us on the socials. We're on Facebook at The Taculars, Twitter, The Taculars, Instagram, The Taculars, and YouTube. We post videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you're missing out on Saturday, don't forget that you can follow us on the YouTubes and like and subscribe and, all those fun things. We're just, you know, two married folks liking the gaming. That's what we do. Like the gaming. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.